Hi everyone, welcome to a tactics video. We're going to look at the Q1 2024 balanced data slate for Warhammer 40,000. Long awaited, and it's finally come out about a week later than what everyone expected, and certainly some interesting things across the meta, and some interesting things for Guard. Potentially quite a short video, but I'll do my best to sort of lengthen this out and keep it overall quite positive. So, good place to always start is to understand from a statistical point of view how we perform. Now I've got two different data sources. I've got 40k stats and then also metadata or statcheck.com. Now I'm not sure what the exact sources are, but I think when you look at 40k stats, it's basically looking at Leviathan, which goes off, I believe, an app we can use to put your games in. And this basically is a non-tournament pack, and then you can filter to the GT pack as well, which is for tournament play. Now, I filtered this for the 30th of September last year, which is, I think, roughly when the Q4 balanced data set was released. So where's Astra Militarum? And we can sort of note the strongest to the weakest is the Black Templars, Eldari, World Eaters, and Chaos Knights at this point, which I think must be old data, Orcs, and Chaos Space Marines performing the best. And then we get towards the bottom, and Astra Militarum at this point at a 46% win rate, so actually not too bad overall, and you can see ahead of quite a few others. So I'll actually filter this down a little bit more. Let's put it back into November and see what it does, because that will definitely be when the data slate was released. Okay, if I click this again, other way, you can basically see, yeah, okay, World Eaters, Black Templar, Space Wolves, Death Guard, Leagues of Votan, and Astra Militarum is moving back towards the bottom of the meta here. So 43%, 42% in line with Drakari, Grey Knights, and then Adeptus Mechanicus, who've sung for a long time. So let's then filter this data for Grand Tournament, which is then the tournament play. And again, we filter this for the top ones. Again, you see the usual suspects: Sisters, Necrons, Death Guard, Leagues of Votan, Eldari at the top, and Astra Militarum towards the bottom at 42% win rate. So we've seen it from probably more a casual game sense point of view to GT, which is the tournament-based missions you can play if you're a tournament player like I am. So you can see we are towards the bottom. So let's reconfirm this view with some more data. Now this is then stat check, and again I don't know what the sources of data are for this. I don't know where they pulled this information from, but what this is looking at, and if I zoom in to make it a bit easier to see for the viewers at home, interestingly it's got the meta. Let's see what this does. So Codex Necrons. Okay, so this is quite good. You can actually click it all around, and basically it's showing information after the Necrons and AdMech Codex was released. Now it's also cool if you want to go in here and fiddle around. You can choose country, you can choose event, you can choose all types of things. So some quite cool ways to sort of cut the data. And the interesting thing is, again, it reconfirms Necrons, Eldari, Black Templar, Chaos Space Marines, Sisters and World Eaters, Leagues of Votan, and Orcs are all sort of doing a 50% plus win rate. So they're winning more often than they're losing. And this roughly ties into the data we looked at for 40k stats. Now, where's Astra Militarum? We are third from the bottom, so 43% win rate, which obviously means we're losing more than we're winning. Now, I look at this data, and my personal experience has been really rough. I found it really hard to find my groove with Astra Militarum. I've struggled to win games consistently, and I really do feel personally that this sort of probably speaks to my experience of Astra Militarum over the last couple of months. And by no means am I the best player, but I definitely play a lot. And I've sort of struggled to find my groove here. Other things to look at is I think you can filter it by popularity. Well, I think you actually can, but what it's basically showing you is that games played, according to this data, Sisters, Eldari, Necrons, Orcs, interestingly, getting a fair few games in. Adeptus Mechanicus were getting a few games, and then Astra Militarum, according to this data, seeing less and less players being taking part in Astra Militarum. Now, if we go to 40k stats, we do the same thing. If you click games, you can basically see most popular factions. Actually, according to this data, Astra Militarum is actually quite popular. So I don't know how to interpret the two, but I think these data sets both agree Astra Militarum is not a faction that is killing it. Now, as we go to the balanced data slate every quarter, I don't know what G&W uses for their data sources. They may use a whole variety of different things to make their decisions, and obviously with the Las Vegas Open finishing weekend before last, that's a big amount of data they must have interpreted to make some decisions, because a lot of games were played across thousands of players in the US, so a good data set to sort of reconfirm understanding. Now, one watch out with that as I go to the data slate is that is player place terrain. For those in the UK using UKTC rules, it's fixed terrain, so player players can be a bit more forgiving on shooty armies. We can set up fire lanes a bit easier than fixed terrain, where often the board state determines how shooting your army can be, and that is just the way it is. Now, balanced data slate. So they've done a bit better from an admin point of view. This others that indicate like changes, but what's confusing is they've basically said that new or revised sections are marked in red. And I think basically all of the stuff in the core rules are basically from the last balanced data set. So I don't think there's anything in here which is new to be called out. Like the key one that came through last time is that Titanic models can't use Overwatch, so that killed off Baneblades firing Overwatch, which could be very, very good if you've got, you know, four double flamers. So if we scroll down, I'll do my very best to talk about other armies, because I think we need to keep that in context as we look at Astra Militarum. Is that there's a fair few changes here, and listen to other expert channels that know a lot more about 40k than I do. Broadly speaking, this is quite a good balanced data set in the sense they've really cut back on some of the crazy armies and given some of the very, very worst armies a little bit of a facelift. So one I know relatively well is Adeptus Custodes. I'm also a casual Custodes player, play once in a blue moon, and I believe they took this away in the last data set, they're giving it back, where basically their army-wide 4+ feel no pain now works against devastating wounds. It was devastating wounds, and it was also mortal wounds. It was taken away just to be mortal wounds, and now it's back. So that I think is huge, because you know the Emperor's bodyguards, these blokes are meant to be crazy dudes who are like really, really good. They also get some points change we'll look at in a second, but from what it seems like, Custodes have got a real bit of a facelift out of this, definitely from a points point of view and the dev wounds, and I think some of the unit stuff here, like you can increase the number of dudes in the main fighting squads is helpful, so that's definitely good. I won't go through Aldari. I know them enough, I've played them, but I don't know the ins and outs. I do believe that what they've done to them is really going to tune them back. They've chopped their rules quite heavily, and I think Strands of Fate, was it 12d6 or 8 maybe? I don't know. It was a lot more than 6. So that is I think a big cut. There's a number of like Strands of Fate dice that can, so that removes all the sort of fixed ways they could play into the game, which is quite hard to play into. Phantasm has also been I believe nerfed as well, so infantry only and d6 move. So I think they just used to be able to make a move full stop, and they can't move into transport, so that's helpful. But again, from second-hand accounts, I believe it's quite a big cut to Aldari. We're yet to see if it actually makes a huge difference. Now, we'll jump straight into the meat and potatoes, is Astra Militarum. So we've got a single change. Now, to those who aren't super duper close to this, I'll do my best to explain it, because I looked at this first and I was like, what's the difference? I'm like, all this and I find often GW stuff is, you've got to be a bit of a lawyer to sort of interpret this quite well. So fundamentally, okay, this is the army rule, voice of command, or officers give other units orders. So add some extra words. Officer models with this ability can issue orders. Cool. Okay, each officer's data sheet, how many orders you can give, and each officer can issue orders at the below table, which you've got your 6 to choose from within 6 inches. Now, the key thing is if you're a vehicle, they've got the Voxcaster network thing, which means they can issue orders to 12 inches other vehicles. Okay, so the key change is officer models can issue orders in your command phase and at the end of a phase in which they disembarked from a transport or were set up in the battlefield. So this last piece is the key part of the entire thing. So currently, well, in the old life, yesterday, yeah, officers could only give an order in the command phase, full stop. So if you had a model come in the movement phase, either coming out of a transport, i.e. an officer, or they were coming in from reinforcements, either strategic reserves or deep strike abilities, they can't give an order. So this basically opens up a lot more opportunity, because obviously before, even in a Chimera, they could actually issue an order from the Chimera, but if they came out of the Chimera, they can't give an order. So this opens up basically, you can give orders in both the command and movement phase. So this is interesting in the sense it gives you more opportunity. And I think the key thing, which again, a lot of you have already commented on some Instagram posts and also YouTube posts, is that it really helps scions, which I think is going to really potentially change the way we need to think. Because if you look at this in the current game state, how many people would actively be putting like command squads with loads of infantry squads or a tank commander with loads of lemon russes in reserves in the current game state? Like, I don't think many. You probably put like, you probably put some scions and deep strike to do some mission play, or maybe some infantry squads, but to put it with an infantry character who can give an order, I don't think that's currently been done much. So this is definitely something that is a new concept. So if you look at this again, it's not like helping us how we currently are. It's helping us do something new, if that makes sense. So I don't know if it's going to revolutionize like our win rates. And we'll look at the point changes in a moment, which there's not many. Well, let me get to that. But this does introduce new ways of playing. Again, someone's commented a great combo would be the Khazrakan coming in with Akkadian Castellan, sustained hits. They can basically have the two orders, both giving it to themselves, plus the officer gives them an order when they arrive from reinforcements, and they suddenly could be quite spicy. Sort of probably, to a degree, probably trading up into killing and maybe even some custodians. Now, as I said, I think with this, where it could be spicy is a Leman Russ tank commander or Lord Solar with some Leman Russes or Rogal Dawns. Now, that could definitely work, but then, of course, from an overall gameplay point of view, you're signposting to your opponent your plan. If you put a Rogal Dawn and a tank commander or Lord Solar in reinforcements, they're going to know it's going to come, because that's 500 points of your army sat in reinforcements. They can screen the board out depending on the army or the opponent, of course, and that could turn off the plan. But on the same token, if the opponent can't deal with that, that could be a real heavy hitting area which suddenly comes into, say, turn 3 in their deployment zone and just punches a massive hole in whatever units are holding their back objective. I do think you're probably going to see a lot more play, as I said, with Scions, Khazrakans, probably more executional play in the sense they could come in, to pick out some sort of battle line units holding an objective. And that feeds onto something I'm sort of reflecting with Guard. And I know Morning Glory is all about this, but I think infantry-based Guard lists probably are the way to go. I've played a lot of tank lists and I've struggled to get consistent output. Now, again, I play UKTC, so fixed terrain placement. I think in the US it can be very different. Of course, if you play a place at the right way, you can get a lot of good fire lanes. But this, I think, probably has more opportunity for infantry units than vehicles. As I said, I think, if you're going to reinforce with a Rogal Dawn and a tank commander, that's 500 points, which probably I think that's a max already for reinforcements. And then it's really signposting your plan to your opponent, and then they could just screen all the back of the board out, and you're coming in anyway, and you're shooting, and we're not achieving much. Of course, it's more options there, because if there's a threat of a turn 1 alpha strike from your opponent blasting off the board, you want to hide your good hitters, you can do that. So this is definitely, I don't think it's going to really it's not going to change our win rates just looking at this isolation, but it's going to change the way we can play, and that's good. That's very good. Now, again, I don't know the rest of the stuff too well, but I do know Chaos Space Marines quite intimately because I've faced into them a couple of times, and they're very hard. Now, I don't know what all this stuff does here, but I believe, the key one which I dealt with a lot was the Accursed Cultist ability, which is every command phase, they can return models. So every command phase. So if you kill 3, if you kill 6, say in your turn, by the time you get to your next turn, they can heal back 6 of those. Now, that's been cut back to just the 3 in their command phase, their opponent's command phase. So that's a help. And again, I haven't looked at all, I don't know them all too well in detail. That's interesting. Accursed Control. Change the OC, the mutant turrets. That's made it better. But yeah, this, from, again, second hand, I believe Chaos Space Marines have been cut quite effectively. We'll look at their points in a moment. Beyond that, I don't know a lot of this stuff too well, as I said. I do know Drukhari have had a massive facelift. They've got a new detachment ability, I believe, which is helping them because they have suffered for a long time. But I think the thing is that as you look at this, I think Imperial Knights have had a bit of a boost. Leagues of Vote, I'm not sure what the changes are, but the thing is, when you look at this, and World Eaters, man, they're terrible to go. I believe this has probably cut some of the key stuff quite well as well, which is good. But yeah, for face value, if you just consider this document, looking at the 40k stats I looked at before and everything else, we probably don't have a lot here that's going to push us up. This is granted a very powerful piece of change, introducing new play, but I don't think that's going to sort of rapidly push us from, a theoretical 42% to, like, mid to high 40s and maybe in the 50s, obviously. Now let's go to points. Okay, so again, some nice admin is they've actually put what's gone up, what's gone down. So that's super. A common theme across a lot of other videos is it'd be nice to show the pre and post points, but I think this will become quite an admin heavy piece of documentation. I've actually got it here, but so I'm not going to go through every single thing, but sisters have had some ups and downs. You can see here, and I think a key theme is that, broadly speaking, some of the nasty indirect has been nerfed, and we'll certainly see that for our little example. But as we go through, I believe Custodes, yeah, they look a lot better now. So let's have a look, because I've got Custodes when I just see it out of interest actually. So Custodes, Alaris Custodians, I think they're the Terminators, 140 previously, now 130, so 10-point drop. Custodian Guard, which are the key battle line dudes, 180 for 4. 220, that's 5 points a model. The jet bikes, which have been terrible all 10th edition, 160 for 2 and 150, okay, 5 points. So 5 points a model, and I think this on the face value looks quite good, but I don't believe, and again, I don't play Custodes much, but I think the point changes here, if you actually work it out across a common army, probably equates to like one more Custodian, because they're just worth so much each. Like, you know, so actually, when you look at this in isolation, it's not revolutionary, of course, unless we'll start to change the list compositions. And I think, the Shield Captain Dawn Eagle Jet Bike, 140. I think, 40-point drop. Wow, that's massive. So I think for Custodes, where the money is obviously the dev wound changes. That's going to help them a lot. Okay, now Mechanicus, and I've seen commentary that they look really crap at the moment, but I feel like they're paying for their sins of 9th edition when they were just mental in the early parts of 9th edition. If you all remember how awful they were to play into, they just dominated you. So, okay, Titanicus, cool, and then I believe Eldari, the way they've managed is they've cut a couple of key units with some really nasty point increases, so I don't actually know. So Night Spinners were 180, now 210, good. Wraith Guard, 190 now for 5, previously 170, okay. 4 more points, but I think alongside also some of their key rule changes, that's quite good, because they are very tasty to go into, very hard to deal with. Now, are we Agents of the Imperium? No change, which is interesting. I would have thought they would have, done something weird like cut the Kalidas Assassin, because she's used in every single list. But 90. Let me just double check, because I was worried that she went up. No, okay, she's 90. Now we get on to Astra Militarum and spot the difference. Spot the difference. Do you spot the difference? I'm going to go to the 4-jaw models and have a sip of tea as well. What do you see? One change. Okay, one change of Manticore. 150, now 180. So up 30 points. So I was surprised how little we've had. Well, we've had nothing except for a Manticore. And I don't know, like this feels a bit off. Again, going off the stats, we're not an army that nails it, but this always makes me think that they must use a different data set where maybe it's more like collective play, it's less tournament play, because I think these data sets are quite competitive, and not everyone plays tournaments, not everyone plays competitive games, people play casual games. And it may be in casual games where people are playing like less hyper-tuned Eldari lists, taking whatever the normal, I don't know what the non-crazy units are. Maybe it's more, the meta's more adjusted, maybe. But it's because in the competitive center of over-indexing the best units means it's probably more an aggressive place to play, obviously, because it's competitive. But this feels a bit off for me, because we clearly aren't nailing it. And then for us to have little to no change, it sort of shows that they think Guard is a pretty good army overall. And that is something I need to reflect on, because again, I've struggled a lot recently. I haven't had like loads of wins. I've played a couple of RTs, and it's a pretty bad. I always manage to score quite well, but don't get any wins in. I'm getting like 70 plus on the score, but I never actually get lots of wins in. But maybe this is the state of Guard. Maybe Guard is actually quite a balanced, good faction. And in the last couple of weeks, Yeah, LVO, a chap came 6, and he had, I think, a storm sword. And I saw recently in London, there was quite a competitive GT where a chap came first with infantry spam, Astra Militarum. So you can get wins in, some good wins. But I do think, and this could be justifying how I feel, I think Guard is a very high skill army. You need to be very, very good at understanding how it works. And after playing it for many years, I still think I'm finding my feet. But as I said before, I think, yeah, I kind of feel... I've been playing a lot with my battle brother Adam, who plays Black Templars. I think the discussion is Guard probably, you just have to over-index on bodies and just out-OC your opponent, play fixed secondaries maybe, just simply outlast your opponent. And it's less about destroying your opponent's stuff. Of course, you need to destroy some of their stuff, but outscore them on the primary, outscore them on the secondaries. You know, use constant ways of Cadian shock or Cadian jungle fighters to simply get on objectives, turn off their primary, and be okay with that, as opposed to, you know, trying to go for absolute massive devastation on, say, you know, your Rogue or Dawn's hitting all that. Well, because as the balance state obviously shows, this is not, well, you know, if we look at this pragmatically, okay, you're going to do it on shooting units, obviously, coming from reinforcements, they give the order, or they come out of the transport, and by that point the unit's already moved, so you're probably going to do it in the shooting phase. You may do things like, take cover, go to ground, whatever it's called, for your +1 save. You may use it on the OC ability, but reinforcements typically are coming in to apply devastation or to potentially charge into an objective. That's the typical scenarios. Of course, as well, you could do a bit more jank, and you could do rapid ingress, because in the phase, yeah, because this also covers rapid ingress as well. So we're set up on the battlefield, that covers all types of scenarios. So you could do it there, but this is fundamentally in the shooting phase. So, you know, we're going to put our vehicles hitting on 4s, put our infantry squads hitting on 3s, and Khazrakans and Scions hitting on 2s, which is good. But as I said, I see the opportunity more is with infantry units like Khazrakan, and they can hit hard, but they can't remove super durable enemies, yeah? We don't have like heaps of mortal wound stuff, we've got no mortal wound stuff, and if you're coming in from reinforcements, you can't use grenades, because they're more than 8 inches away. You can't use the melter mine, but you can, of course, you can probably punch a big hole into battle line units, or maybe some Terminators, using the right stratagem support as well. So yeah, I mean, Manticores go up 30 points. This probably makes them quite unplayable. I mean, I was playing around with a list of 3 of them. That's an extra 90 points. You know, we're going to have to drop. I'm going to have to drop one. I'll just reconsider everything. So if you look at this, to be a bit emotional about this, this is not a good update for Guard. We're not in a good place. I think Goonhammer doesn't view us in a good position after this, because, you know, one of our key units going up Manticores is not nice, and then this rule here is good, but it's not going to blow us out the doors, yeah. And then have everything else stay the same could be viewed quite negatively. Now, that being said, and I've been chatting a little bit on my Discord, some of my supporters, is that the other way to think about it is if we stay still and everyone else goes up in points, that's a good place to be. Now, we're only in the letter A, so we've got quite a few to go to, but if we just quickly, so Eldari are going up, Sisters are largely going up, Custodians are going down, so that's probably bad. I don't know, baddish for us. It depends how you sort of cut the onion. Who's next? If we then look at Templars are going up, okay, that's good for me. Playing Adam, I play a lot. His Black Templar list, so he's going to have less units to field. Blood Angels stay the same. Chaos Demons have got a massive facelift. Everything's got cheaper. Chaos Knights. Interestingly, Brigands have gone up by 10 points. I know they're very strong, but everything else has got cheaper. So technically we may not do as well onto them, although I don't think they're doing very well. Chaos Space Marines have been cut quite hard, and some of their key units have been really cut to the ground, which is good because they were oppressively good. Dark Angels, I mean, they've just had their new codex. Death Guard had some weird ones. Okay, yeah, that's good, because these Plague Marines and Plague Burst Crawlers are very common, so they've been, I don't know how much the points have changed. But I mean, that's the thing, it's like, until, you know, Grey Knights had a couple of changes, Imperial Knights have got cheaper, could be tough into them again. Leagues of Votann have got a bit more expensive, is it? Yeah, and I think a big comment is Necrons are probably destined to be very good, this balanced data slate. Very, very strong. They're already doing very strongly out of the block with their codex. So I think it's going to take a while to really feel it out, how this is truly sort of affected us. We need to see how everything sort of, you know, patters through. Because again, if we stay still, everyone else is moving around, the universe is going to change. I do think that against maybe other armies which don't change much, I think Death Guard haven't changed a whole lot. It's like our universe won't get any easier because their universe will stay the same as well, if that makes sense. It's almost like, you know, if we stay still, they still, obviously they're not going to, it's not going to make a real difference for us. Except of course the new orders ability. So yeah, this it's not loads to absorb here. I think again, you know, where there's a bit to think about is how you take best advantage of giving orders when you get out of a transport, which probably means you can boost the order range of that officer. So if the vehicle is moved, he debusses through along with the guys inside, issues an order 6. That essentially takes your order range for that bloke from 6 inches from the Chimera, I think it is, to now being 6 plus 3 for the D plus 10, maybe an extra bit. You can now have like a 15 to 18 inch order. Whatever the actual thing works out to be, because you can get out, move the vehicle, get out of the vehicle, issue the order, as opposed to kind of has to be in the vehicle, issue the order, etc., etc. So that's probably the biggest thinking. Points is easy in the sense nothing's changed except the mantle core, which probably now is completely unplayable, which is a bit of a shame. But yeah, so I think overall, you know, you can definitely view it quite negatively, and it's fair to probably view it that way because we've had literally nothing to sort of boost us. But yeah, I think I like to hope there's some sort of scientific approach to this at GW where they look at this from an overall game state point of view and go, actually, Guard are not too bad. But then it is tough when you're grinding out games, not getting loads of wins in. It can be quite demoralising. But yeah, I always think, now I've been playing 40k for probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. Maybe this is the way Guard's meant to be. It's not meant to be an easy army. I mean, you think about the lore of the Guard, it's average dudes like you and me with a rifle, like a lad's gun and a helmet and flak armor, going up against, like, you know, demons and stuff and Tau dudes in crazy suits. So we're meant to always find it quite tough. So there could be something in that, you know, meant to just sort of find it quite tough and sort of push through. But look, hopefully it was enjoyable. I know it's a relatively easy thing to go through, 1 point change and 1 bit of information to go through. If I've missed anything, let me know. There have been some other rule commentary changes, but I looked through it briefly. I couldn't see anything which was revolutionary, but if I've missed anything, let me know, because I do value comments. It's your perspective, your thinking, your questions. Always in the commentary, I love to read them because I learn a lot from you. So get commenting. And if you enjoy this, want to support me, you can do so with a like, comment, or by subscribing, becoming a channel member, or joining my Patreon platoon. Or you could just watch any of my YouTube videos, like or share, because it always helps to boost the YouTube algorithm. Make sure to check out the other channels of Caddy and Sergeant Steele and Morty and Glory, of course, for their opinions on these changes, and also to see how they sort of play and hobby with Guard. So a massive thanks to my current supporters. So keep your bayonet sharp, lasgun oiled, faith for the Emperor strong. Patreon platoon, sound off. Tank Commander Glenn. Tank Commander Watchdog Van Etten. Tank Commander Mitchell. Lieutenant Burke Nielsen. Colour Sergeant DuPont. Sergeant Adal. The Colonel Merrill. Chosen Man Smith. Veteran Gibson. Hall. Lundeen. Guardsman Beard. Coquelin. Flint. Hills. Malik. Nitin. Nguyen. Tom. Tompkin. Conscript de Paz. England. Evan Gunn. Gillian. Goodwin. King.